The single most powerful person controlling your career is someone you barely think about. Your boss's boss. By the end of this, you'll understand the exact communication techniques that make your manager an advocate for you in rooms you're not in. These are the subtle shifts that turn you from a simple subordinate into an indispensable partner. And chances are, the way you currently communicate with your boss is accidentally undermining their trust in you and your own career trajectory along with it. The term managing up often leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It conjures images of the office sycophant, the one who laughs a little too loud at the boss's jokes and agrees with every idea, no matter how misguided. We're taught to see it as political maneuvering, a game of flattery. This frame is a trap. It keeps you focused on your own performance, on getting your assigned tasks done, on being a good employee. It keeps you in a reactive posture. A much more powerful frame is to see your boss as your first and most important client. Your job is to make that client successful. Their success is the vehicle for your own. When they get promoted, they create a vacuum you can fill. When they look good in front of their leadership, that positive association extends to their team, to you. The goal is to become the person who makes their job easier, who anticipates their needs, and who solves problems they haven't even seen yet. This is about utility, not flattery. It's about becoming so functionally valuable that your success becomes a requirement for theirs. The person who brings their boss finished solutions is playing a different game than the person who brings them well-documented problems. One requires the boss to do more work. The other frees up their time and mental energy. Guess which one gets trusted with more responsibility? The fundamental shift is from, what do I need to do to complete my tasks, to, what does my boss need to achieve their goals, and how can my work directly support that? This requires you to see beyond your own job description. It requires you to understand the pressures they are under from their own leadership. What metrics are they responsible for? What project falling behind keeps them up at night? What question from their director do they dread the most? Once you know the answers to those questions, you can align your work accordingly. Your updates become more relevant. Your projects gain context. You stop being just another pair of hands and start becoming part of their strategic thinking. But all this strategic alignment means nothing if your execution is invisible. And this is where the biggest mistake happens, the assumption that good work speaks for itself. The truth is, good work that is poorly communicated is often perceived as average work. You have to learn to translate your efforts into your boss's language, and that translation is where real influence is built. Because what if their language is completely different from yours? Think of your boss as having an operating system. Some are data-driven, they want spreadsheets, charts, and key performance indicators. Others are narrative-driven. They want to hear the story, the context, the impact on people. Some are big-picture thinkers who get lost in the details. Others are detail-oriented and get anxious without specifics. Your job is to figure out their native language and deliver information in that format. You might be proud of a complex, elegant solution you built. You want to walk them through the brilliant architecture of it, but if your boss is a bottom-line, numbers-first person, they don't care about the architecture. They care about the result. How much time did it save? What's the percentage increase in efficiency? How does it impact revenue? Leading with the technical details will just make their eyes glaze over. You have to lead with the answer they need. You can say, the new process will reduce our average response time by 30%. I can walk you through the mechanics if you're interested, but the key outcome is that 30%. See the difference? You gave them the headline first. You translated your work into their metric of success. The reverse is also true. If your boss is a story-driven leader and you just drop a spreadsheet on them, you fail to communicate. They need the narrative. Last quarter, our support team was drowning in tickets from the new product launch. Sarah was working late every night. We were on the verge of burnout. This new workflow I built automates the initial sorting. It means Sarah now gets to focus on the hardest problems. Customer satisfaction is up, and we've closed twice the number of high-priority tickets with the same team. That story lands with far more impact than a data table showing a 200% increase in ticket closure. Same data, different language. Pay attention to how they communicate. Do they send long, detailed emails or short, bulleted ones? Do they talk in terms of vision and mission, or in terms of quarterly targets? The way they output information is a massive clue about how they prefer to receive it. Once you crack this code, you can pre-format your updates for them. Create a template. Maybe it's a weekly email with 3 sections: key accomplishments, roadblocks, and next week's priorities. By consistently delivering information in a predictable, easy-to-digest format, you lower the cognitive load required to manage you. You become easy. You become reliable. In a world of chaos, reliable is a superpower. And this reliability earns you the right to do something far more important. It earns you the right to disagree with them. Pushing back on your boss is one of the most career-defining skills you can develop. Most people do it completely wrong. They either stay silent and let a bad decision happen, breeding resentment, or they challenge their boss directly and publicly, which triggers a defensive response and damages the relationship. Loyal opposition is the art of disagreeing in a way that reinforces trust. It shows you care enough about the outcome to risk discomfort. It proves you're more committed to the company's success than to your own social comfort. But it has to be done correctly. The first rule is simple: disagree in private, support in public. Never contradict or undermine your boss in a group meeting. Even if you have a valid point, the public challenge creates a situation where they have to defend their authority. It forces them into a corner. That conversation must happen one-on-one. The second rule is about framing. Your goal is to turn a confrontation into a collaborative problem-solving session. Avoid accusatory or definitive statements like, "That plan won't work," or "I think you're wrong." These statements attack their judgment. Instead, use inquiry-based language that invites them into a discussion. Start with questions. Can you help me understand the thinking behind the new launch date? I'm concerned about the engineering team's capacity to hit it without significant overtime. This phrasing achieves several things. It signals respect for their thought process. It frames your concern around a shared goal, the team's well-being and project success. It presents a problem, capacity, as a variable to be solved together, rather than a flaw in their plan. Another powerful phrase is, "What are the potential downsides I might be missing?" This is a brilliant piece of psychological jujitsu. It frames you as someone trying to learn from their superior wisdom, while simultaneously forcing them to articulate the risks of their own plan. Often, in the process of explaining the downsides, they will see the flaw themselves. You are guiding them to your conclusion, without ever directly stating it. You are letting them discover it. When you present an alternative, frame it as building on their idea. Building on your idea for a faster launch. What if we phase the release? We could get Module A out by your original date, which hits the market deadline, and then follow with Module B 2 weeks later. This would give the engineering team the breathing room they need. This validates their initial impulse while offering a more pragmatic path. You're not replacing their idea, you're refining it. This approach transforms you from a critic into a partner. You become a trusted advisor, the person they can pressure test ideas with before taking them public. That is an incredibly valuable position to occupy. But this entire system rests on one critical assumption, that your boss is a reasonable, competent person. What happens when they're not? Let's talk about the difficult boss, the micromanager, the insecure one, the ghost who's never there. In these situations, managing up shifts from a strategy of advancement to a strategy of survival and containment. Your goal changes. It's less about making them look good, and more about creating a stable environment for you and your team to do good work despite them. Consider the micromanager. They demand constant updates and question every detail. This behavior almost always stems from anxiety. They feel out of control, so they try to control everything. The counterintuitive solution is to over-communicate. Drown them in information, but do it on your terms. Send them a detailed daily or weekly summary. Proactively schedule a 15-minute check-in. By feeding their need for information before they have to ask for it, you slowly build their trust. You demonstrate that you are in control, which calms their anxiety. Over time, as they see that you consistently deliver without their constant intervention, they may begin to back off. You are managing their anxiety, not just their tasks. Then there's the insecure boss. This is the manager who takes credit for your work and feels threatened by your success. The direct approach is career suicide here. Instead, you have to find ways to make them feel secure. The most effective tactic is to give them the credit publicly. In a group meeting, when presenting a project you led, you can say, "Thanks to Sarah's guidance on the initial strategy, we were able to achieve these results." You know you did the work. Your team knows you did the work, but publicly attributing the strategic insight to your boss neutralizes them as a threat. You are feeding their ego to protect your autonomy. It can feel deeply unfair. It is, but you are playing the long game. Your reputation for delivering results will spread through informal channels. People know who really does the work. By managing your boss's insecurity, you create the space to continue doing that work unhindered. Finally, you have the absent boss, the ghost. They provide no direction, no feedback, no support. They are a vacuum of leadership. In this scenario, you must manage up by creating your own structure. You document everything. You send emails that say, "Here is my plan for the next 2 weeks, based on our last conversation. Unless I hear otherwise from you by the end of the day, I will proceed with this plan." This creates a paper trail of your proactivity and their absence. You are forcing them into a position of passive agreement. You are managing yourself and simply notifying them. This also requires building horizontal relationships with peers and other department heads. You need allies and information sources to compensate for the lack of vertical leadership. You are essentially building the support network your boss should be providing. In all these difficult scenarios, the core principle is the same. You must diagnose the underlying driver of their behavior, anxiety, insecurity, or apathy, and adapt your strategy to manage that root cause. And you must also recognize when a situation is truly unsalvageable. Some relationships are too toxic or dysfunctional to be managed. Knowing when to escalate to human resources or when to find a new role is the final and most critical part of managing up. It's knowing when the only winning move is to stop playing. Ultimately, managing up is a deeply misunderstood form of leadership. It's leadership from a position of no formal authority. It's the practice of taking radical ownership over your work environment instead of being a passive recipient of it. You stop seeing your boss as an obstacle or an authority figure and start seeing them as a complex system to be understood. A system with inputs, outputs, pressures, and goals. Your job is to align with that system to produce better outcomes for everyone. It requires empathy, to see the world from their perspective. It requires strategic communication to translate your value into their language, and it requires courage to speak truth to power in a way that can be heard. This is not about changing who you are, it's about expanding your toolkit. The person who masters this can be effective anywhere, under any manager, because they understand that their career isn't something that happens to them. It's something they build, one strategic conversation at a time. Your boss provides the weather. You are the one who decides what to grow. And this same framework for understanding incentives and translating value is exactly what determines your influence among your peers, which in a flat corporate world is often a more powerful engine for your career than any single manager.